Oh, well, thanks you guys for taking the time. I know you're really you're busy during events, but appreciate it. Matt, this year, what a great start. Could you have possibly expected the success that's occurred so far?
I would say more so the consistency. Some of the results, none of us are surprised by that. I think just a matter of how often we've rolled through events, put ourselves in position to win events. That's a hard thing for four guys coming together, all from different teams, to try and do. So I would say that's maybe the part of it all. It's been a great start so far.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about a consistency you bring up. Okay, on the podcast, we call it Team Ryan and the Three Tuckers. Do you think maybe there's something to that, being that all three of the last players on your team throw it, well, pretty close to the same?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of the rock's coming from the angle a lot of the same time. And one of the things with BJ especially, I noticed right away, me and him come from a very, very similar angle, and obviously he's throwing the two in front of me, so I mean it makes my life pretty easy. I get to see four in a row coming at me all from the same angle, and we're still working on Ryan to get a corn broom into his hands and throwing the tuck slide, but he doesn't think his knees could do it.
Talking about the tuck delivery, it's kind of a unique Manitoba type thing. Not many players in the world outside of Manitoba's borders would use a tuck delivery. Maybe a little bit, BJ, about maybe the advantages of it. Why you throw that way?
Yeah, I mean, I started throwing that way just because my dad threw that way. My dad and Vic, and watching them curl, I mean, I just kind of wanted to be like them. And then, there's lots of other people doing it. I think at a young age, it was helpful to be able to throw the rock a little bit harder, staying down low and kind of we had that big back slider leg kick, right? So you could throw the rock a little bit harder, get it down the ice as a little guy. So I think that's, and I always thought it looked cooler than the flat foot delivery. So that's kind of the reason why I gravitated towards it.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the front end. You first, BJ. Colton Lott. Now, for people that love the game of curling, and we always watch everything about it, Colton's not a new name to us, but in the big scheme of things, outside of mixed doubles, it kind of is. And I'd like you to talk about what Colton brings to your team at second. And then, of course, Ryan's no stranger to anyone.
Yeah, like Colton, we know him. I've known him for a while. We played Matt's junior team in a provincial final, and that was kind of my first introduction to Colton. I think it was like 2016, I think. And I right away said, "Holy moly, this guy's gonna be really good." So I've known him for a while. He's going to do absolutely everything in his power to, be the best second in the world. You can already see it. His work ethic is really strong. He's doing everything that we're asking of him to do, as far as a preparation standpoint. And he's just super, super talented. He just has that natural ability to make big shots at the right time, to turn ends, around for us, defensive ends into offensive ends. And so he's just a weapon out there. It's not going to be too long before everybody else knows who he is. That's for sure. And then Ryan, I've played against him for a long time. So I kind of, had an idea of, what he was going to be like as a teammate. And he's kind of he brings the same type of work ethic and drive and determination, intensity. He brings some intensity to our team that, I think is super important. He just really fit in, really well. And they both, know their roles on the team, and they take a lot of pride in fulfilling those roles. And it really helps, Matt and I focus on our roles at the back end, and they're a great support for us.
Matt, when it comes to, I'd like to first of all with Ryan Harn, arguably the strongest guy in curling. It wouldn't be it'd be 1A and 1B if he's not the strongest. For his sweeping though, when you go to shoot, you've got him on one side and Colton on the other. Colton not as big a fellow. Does that adjust any of your strategic calling as far as the strength of the sweeper on a certain side?
No, definitely not. It hasn't to this point. Obviously, with Ryan on our outturn side, it's tough to miss low with him in there. But at the end of the day, it comes down to right weight technical perfection, and that's been our focus right now. I mean, I think you can kind of play yourself into a hole if you're trying to find certain turns, certain just completely different way of playing the game on the ice. I mean, if there's an option here or there that might make a little bit more sense, super situational for sure. But we certainly don't go out of our way to try and be an out-turn team, I guess, if you want.
Maybe,
exactly,
sure.
If you want to put it that way.
You guys are sitting at 183 points year to date, only second to Nicodine as far as the year to date for points in the world. You're currently ranked number 5, but this year you're just behind Team Adine. I guess when it comes to you're living in Kamloops, B.J. and Colton are in Winnipeg, and Ryan's in the Sault Ste. Marie. So a year that strong with people across Canada, how do you make that work? How do you possibly make that work from a practice, get together, team chemistry, team dynamics? Obviously, it's worked. How?
A lot of trust in one another. I mean, we were upfront and open about our training, our practice regimen, everything that we needed to do to be great, and there was trust in each and every one of us that we were going to do that, and we all know full well that each guy is doing what they need to do to be ready for events. That to me ultimately is what it comes down to is trust in one another, and we totally have that.
So how often would the team get together outside of events? Obviously where you travel together, but for practice.
Yeah, we've gotten together a handful of times. Before the year started in Okotoks, we got together for a bit of training. Before the Slam in North Bay, we got together in the Sault, got some training in there. Matt was just in Winnipeg. We had some time to throw rocks together. I've thrown with Colton and myself a few times. So, I mean, it's important to obviously, get together and revisit where we're all at a delivery standpoint. And I mean, that'll be a challenge that, we'll have to deal with, over these next 4 years, finding that right mix of how many times we have to get together to feel comfortable that we're all where we want to be delivery wise. And then like Matt said, I mean, the accountability from everybody on the team, I think, is quite strong. And I think individually we're going to be able to, work on the majority of the stuff we need to work on individually. And then, when we do get together, we got to be efficient and not waste any time when we do get together to make this all work.
When it came to B.J., when you got together to start this new team together, did you set up some goals? Do you do that as a team? Set up monthly or quarterly or yearly goals for the team? Yeah,
I mean, I think that hard goal setting isn't something that we've really talked a lot about. I mean, I think we see ourselves as an elite team in Canada and in the world, and I think our goal right now, that most definitely, is to win the Brier and win the Worlds. That is our goal right now, and that is the focus and everything that we're playing in and preparing for. We have that goal in mind. That's for sure.
At the start of the year, would your expectations for this team have changed because of the last 3 months and winning? What have you won? You've won 2 events. You've got to the final of 3 others. Semis of 2. It's crazy. You've played 46 games this year and only lost 12. So could your expectations maybe have changed over the last 3 months?
No, I don't think so. It's all a building process. I mean, whether it came this year as early as it did, or whether it came in year 2 or 3, like we're building towards something quite bigger than what happens in the first year, 2, 3 of the cycle. I mean, ultimately, when this team's put together, in 4 years from now, we hope to hold the gold medal in Italy in 2026. So that's been the goal from day one. It's obviously the success early is great. It gives the team a lot of confidence. But even if things hadn't gone, great early on, at the end of the day, we've been building towards 4 years from now.
For a young guy like you, how important is it to have a veteran at the third position?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, BJ's been phenomenal caddy to me. The shot making speaks for itself. And just to kind of have some calming influences in bigger moments. And I mean, we've played semis, finals, you name it, right? And just that's old hat for a guy like him, right? And Ryan as well. I mean, just having those guys that have been there, done that, and in every moment, in every game, nothing phases them. And it totally rubs off on me, and I think I can speak for Colton as well. I mean, it just everything is very calm and super easy to go to battle with these guys.
Your thoughts on the young guy being the skip and being the sheriff of this crew?
Yeah, I mean, similar to how I was talking about Colton. I mean, I kind of had the same thought about Matt. You know, playing in that provincial final. You know, you kind of know when a guy has it and has the capability of being, you know, an elite skip, or you know, maybe one of the best skips in the world. You know, so I've you know, kept tabs on him for sure as a guy that you know I'd maybe like to play with that guy at some point. You know, he's got all the shots. You know, his passion for the game is second to none. You know, and then one thing I've learned this year, you know, his professionalism is outstanding. You know, it's exceeded my expectations. You know, I didn't really know that side of him as just watching him from an outsider, but the professionalism is such an important piece to this game, and when your skip is you know, a total pro, I mean, it sets a really good example for the rest of us that, hey, you know, if he's going to be doing these things, you know, we have to follow and be just as professional as he is. So I mean, I've just been super impressed with Matt. You know, and I think it's just showing. It's just our team dynamic has been really good. You know, we haven't, you know, this year we've had some really good success, but you know, we've lost a couple stinkers and we've had some, you know, we've had to battle in a lot of games. And it's a lot of fun, you know, going to battle with these guys, knowing that we're all really supporting each other, throughout the game, you know, and I find that, you know, we've been a team that's been able to come back and, you know, we've stolen a couple games. I think I don't think I stole a game to win in like 8 years, which is nuts. Like, I don't think when playing with Kevin, I don't think we stole one game. You know, and we've already won 2, and, you know, we could easily stole to win this last game here. So, it's just the support, the professionalism, those two assets have, you know, I think helped us get the results that we've gotten so far, and keep us really hungry to keep working for each other and continue to grow as a team.
One of the big ways of winning these days is you draw the button. How much time do you spend on paths and draw the button to make sure you have the hammer as much as possible?
Yeah, a fair bit. I think, I mean, almost every team practice, it at least gets talked about. I remember first event of the year, I think it was first, maybe second, we draw to the button, did not go very well at all. We kind of, you know, just like, this is something we got to look at. Because, I mean, if you can get to the point where you're winning 60-40, even 70-30, like that's such a huge advantage, right? So, I mean, after that first or second event, I can't remember when it was, we buckled down and looked at the whole process of it, went out and executed it. And then that very first slam, I think in all 4 games, we were combined like half an inch or something goofy like that. So, we've got a good feel for it now. There's always things you can look at, to try and layer on and make stuff improve. But yeah, it's been solid as a whole, and obviously it's something that's quite big in our game.
When it comes to practicing that, I just, for the young people that are listening to us, are there, like, in practice, in your 10 minutes or 9 minutes that you have to practice, or the 2 up and 2 back, depending on what event you're in, is there something that you're really, I guess, concerning yourself with so that you're ready to make that draw?
I think the biggest thing is just not handcuffing yourself to one path in the sheet. Just making sure you have an inside line that's had a couple rocks thrown down, a couple outside lines, and then the line, like, kind of just miss by a rock and a half one way and overcurl the button, miss wide of the button one way, because then you have, you know, maybe a 2-foot, 3-foot area that you can actually throw on in the sheet. Because if you handcuff yourself and you're just throwing in the same spot, and you're just missing the pin by this much every time, and then you're throwing second and you have to pin it to get hammer, right? And you haven't thrown a rock down that path, then it's just a guess. So the main thing would be just not handcuffing yourself to this one rock-sized path the entire way down the sheet.
Love to hear your opinion on the way the slams do the draw to the button. With the one draw, the other team takes the other draw. But at the world level, it's different, where it's 2 draws by each team. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's one team on each side, one on the other, then I think it's pretty even across the board. We've had it where first practice is they got to do both sides, right? And I think that's quite a big disadvantage, just from a feel standpoint. I know the stats overall probably say it's pretty close to even in and around, but I think if you're going to throw 2, keep it on the same side, or your ice has got to be pretty darn good, because just from a feel standpoint, it's quite difficult to work in 2 sheets of ice in the 7 to 9 minutes that you do get.
Right, you're talking about at the Worlds and those events where you draw on both sides, in turn, out turn. Yeah. You had to keen the whole thing up, and you try to do it, but you can only do it to a certain degree. Yeah. Then the next team goes, ha ha, it's all nice and keen for me.
Yeah, and another advantage you get too is when you're on the one side of the sheet, you can actually throw some stuff to the wings, just kind of work in some hack waders on that side of the sheet too, because you have the time to just try different shots and really map out that side of the sheet. Whereas when you're trying to get 2 rocks to the button on either side, like you're spending 9 minutes one way, or like there's only one thing you're doing, and that's just peppering the button as much as you can. That's
a great point. So what you're saying, Matt, is that in the case of a Worlds type thing where there's 2, you're going to spend no time from the edge of 4. There won't be any rocks go down there. Because there's
maybe one for the person who's not throwing the draw to the button, and that would be it. But again, throwing those hits, do you get to match the stones? Because that person's not going to throw very much either, right? They're going to get 2 up and 2 back, and they're going to be sweeping the rest of the way too. So it's like, should we be matching their stones, making sure they're in a good place? So it's a little tricky for sure.
My next question was about matching stones. Well done, because that's exactly what I wanted to ask you about, BJ, is the importance of being able to get an idea of matching the stones, especially the final 4 rocks, thirds and skips.
Yeah, for sure. It's an art. Something that, I definitely try to be, you're always mindful of it, trying to really hone in on, how you're throwing the rock and what the rock is telling you. And a lot of the times just believing what the rock is telling you. I mean, sometimes, guys can, they're like to maybe blame themselves. They didn't throw it good. But in reality, the stone, might be dictating, those misses. So, it's an art. I think it's something the older you get, I think the better you get at figuring out rocks. But it's a massive, massive asset. Something that I know on my last team, we took a lot of pride in, with John. You played with him quite a bit, so and I think he probably learned a lot of rock matching from yourself. We always thought it was an asset. John was very, very good at picking out stones and figuring them out and being really confident in that, not second guessing that, hey, yeah, I think this rock or I know this rock curls half a rock more. And then, going with that for the rest of the game. As soon as you have any indecision or indecisiveness, and what the rocks are doing, you're in tough. So it's an art. It's something that our team, I think we're okay at it so far, but it's definitely on the docket for something that, we want to be, one of the best in the world at figuring out our stones. Yeah.
You made a great comment here a minute ago, and then we'll let you guys go. But with Ryan on the one side, it's really hard to miss one low. Yeah. We get a lot of messages to Inside Curling in regards to there's no such thing as carving. It doesn't really work. There's none of that stuff. Just from behind your eyes, what you see as far as carving, what difference does it really make with Colton or with Ryan?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of testing. I think that still needs to be done with it for sure. I think you find your biggest advantage kind of when the rock is either just before its break point, right into its break point. That's when I see it as most effective for sure. I think it's very surface dependent. If you can change a rock's break point. Totally depends on the sheet you're playing on, in my opinion. Because I don't think in most surfaces you can actually change the break point as a whole. But you know full well when a surface is giving you that opportunity to do so.